Well, we literally have a lot to get to this evening, so let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Again, people will still be logging in as we get going, but we're happy to have you with us this evening. As you all know, it's college season. So we're here tonight for Mythbusters, the truth about the California public higher education system. My name is Charlene Margot, and I am the co-founder of nonprofit The Parent Venture. My co-founder, Bev Hartman, is with us tonight, monitoring the chat. Thank you, Bev. And I am founder of the Parent Education Series, which we started 16 years ago. Tonight has been amazing, and we have had 600 registrants for this event. So we know that not only is it college season, but this is a really important and timely topic. And we have with us an amazing panel tonight. I'm going to be telling you a little bit more as we get going. If you would like Spanish interpretation, Cynthia Hinestrosa is with us, and she'll be providing simultaneous Spanish. Click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and Spanish. There's also directions for how to do this in the chat in Spanish. So again, thank you, Cynthia, in advance for being with us. Access is very important to us here at the Parent Venture. Tonight's event is sponsored by the Menlo Atherton PTA, Sequoia Union High School District, Sequoia Healthcare District, Peninsula Healthcare District, and the Parent Venture. Again, with special thanks to Alice Kleeman, the former college advisor at Menlo Atherton High School, who's responsible for preparing tonight's myths that we're going to be busting. A little bit about the format. This is a Zoom webinar, so you as an audience have two ways to engage with us. There is both the chat button that most of you are used to by now, so feel free to ask us questions, comment to one another. Bev will be putting resources in there too, so chat. And then if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A button. So comments and resources in the chat, questions in the Q&A. You have the option to speak to everyone or to us panelists, so use that carefully. We hope that you will keep your questions kind of brief so that we can get to as many of them as possible. And we'll be having questions and answers at the end of our myth busting session. So also at the end, there'll be a link to a very, very short survey. We promise about 1 minute. If you would fill that in, we would be grateful. It helps us with planning future Parent Education Series programming and lets our funders know that we're doing a good job. Again, for those of you just tuning in, we had over 600 registrants for tonight's event. If you're not able to attend live or you would like to share this with somebody else, it will post to our video library. We partner with the Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula for videography. They take a couple days to prepare it, and then it will land on our video library. You'll be seeing that link in the chat shortly. All right, let me tell you a little bit about tonight's featured presenters. We're going to go in alphabetical order because we know this is a night where we're talking about different college systems and we don't want to have anybody competing with one another. All right, so Cuca, you're first in both ways. Cuca Acosta is the Associate Director of Admissions at UC Santa Barbara. You see her beautiful slide with the campus behind her. Again, she is the Associate Director of Admissions at UC Santa Barbara. The Office of Admissions is dedicated to helping students move through the admission process, and UC Santa Barbara is consistently recognized for excellence across broad fields of study. Set alongside the California coast, its dynamic environment inspires scholarly ambition and creativity. I'm not sure I would have ever gone to class if I was at college there. Bernie Day is the Articulation Officer at Folsom Lake College, formerly of Foothill College in the San Francisco Bay Area. For the past 35 years, Bernie has been a faculty member in the California Community College system. Her career has focused on supporting student development and transfer through teaching, counseling, and facilitating articulation agreements with universities. She also directed the Foothill Honors Institute for 16 years. Her passion is helping students understand their interests and skills and creating educational plans to help them realize their goals and dreams. Dr. April Grommo currently serves as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management Services at the California State University Office of the Chancellor. She is responsible for system-wide admissions, enrollment management, and financial aid policies and practices. She holds a doctorate, Ed.D. in educational leadership and Social Justice from the University of California at San Diego. Welcome. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Heather Latimer is the Dean of the Connie L. Lurie College of Education, and she joined in 2018. Since then, she has been a leader within the Lurie College and San Jose State University. She received her BA from Harvard University, a master's in teaching from Stanford, and a doctorate in education from the University of California at San Diego. Dr. Latimer, a former teacher, is passionate about excellence, access, and equity in K through 12 and post-secondary education. Please join me in a really warm virtual welcome for Cuca, Bernie, April, and Heather. Thank you all for being with us tonight. So we're going to get started with some of the myth busting, and I figure we would just start easy. Cuca, this one is for you. I hear that Berkeley and UCLA are the best UC campuses, right?
They are the best for many students, and it's all about the right fit. So for students who are looking for certain majors, which are only offered at UCLA and Berkeley, architecture, for example, the only two UCs that offer it, UCLA and Berkeley. So that would be a right fit for a student who's looking for that program. But if you're asking in general, I think there are 4,000 amazing universities throughout the United States. I think that California is blessed to have 9 undergraduate UC campuses, all of which have some amazing programs and resources. So the right fit might be different for each student, and I hope that you look at that particular fit.
I also hear that those campuses are landlocked. Does that have something to do with selectivity, Cuca?
So the enrollment of a campus is going to be based off of multiple factors. Their graduate and undergraduate ratios. So if they've got graduate schools, they have to fill those spaces. They're also going to be based off of a student's program. So at a Berkeley campus, if you're looking at architecture, for example, there are only so many spaces, and therefore their faculty will be looking at the caliber. And then there's going to be the city of Berkeley, the county that looks at also enrollment and how many students can be on a college campus. These are all factors that go into the evaluation and the conversation when we say how many new students can we enroll on a campus. So I do want to point out that it's a myth that if you get admitted to one campus, you won't get admitted to another UC campus. Lies, lies, lies. There's my liometer right there. And we hope that you look at all of them equally and find what's the right fit for you.
Thank you, Cuca. That sounds like really good advice. All right, here is one for you, April and Heather, for the California State University system. This myth is the CSU campuses are huge and I will just be a number.
Thank you, Charlene. I'll start and I'll let Heather add. So I think that is a big myth. We have our California Maritime Academy that has an enrollment of 907 students. And by the way, those students make the most money upon graduation based on their careers. And then we have all 23 campuses that are in between that number. And then we have some of our larger campuses like Northridge, Fullerton, San Diego State that might be in the 35,000 or 40,000 students. So there really is, our campuses span the state up actually 800 miles. We have Humboldt State in the north, all the way down to San Diego State in the south. And so we really have a campus that can fit almost any student and their interests.
That is a really great point. Heather, anything that you'd like to add to that from San Jose State University?
Yeah, so we're a big campus. We've got about 32,000 students total, about 27,000 undergraduate. And that is certainly one of the concerns, right? Is how am I going to find a place? How am I going to find people that I connect with? And I think the advice is the same regardless of where you go. It's find those things that you're interested in, whether it's your major and finding other students who are interested in that major and faculty that you're connected with, research opportunities alongside those faculty, whether it's extracurricular activities, Being in a dorm, we house all of our freshmen that live outside of the area on campus during their first year, with the intent that that is a space for people to find community and find one another. And so that it's that finding the thing you're passionate about, and then that will help you find other people so that you aren't lost in the system. One of the things that has been particularly heartening this last year during all of the restrictions around COVID has been that what we've heard from students repeatedly is the sense of belonging actually increased in many cases because the amount that faculty care. And that's one of the myths that there is, oh, my faculty don't care about me, I'm just a number. And I would argue quite the opposite. We have faculty that care deeply about the students who chose to come teach at San Jose State, chose to go teach at other CSU campuses, at UC campuses, because they care deeply about the students at those campuses. And so, sometimes it does take that extra step of going to office hours, introducing yourself, and that can be intimidating the first time that you're asked to do it. But it is also incredibly rewarding and allows you to have that opportunity to find those connections regardless of the size of the campus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latimer and Dr. Grommo, for that great advice. Bernie, that makes me think of one of the great myths about the community college is, what about the teaching caliber though? Am I going to get great professors at a community college like I would get at a UC? What, Bernie, you think?
Sorry, I was muted.
There you
No,
are.
that's a great question, and I've heard that many times. So all community colleges are accredited regionally, just as the CSUs and UCs are. So faculty at the community colleges meet the same expectations for accreditation that other universities and colleges have. All of the faculty at a community college will have at least a master's, but many have doctoral degrees as well. So the teaching is comparable. What makes a community college stand out a little bit from some of the universities is that the classrooms are generally quite a bit smaller. So there's a lot of opportunity for one-on-one interaction, for going to office hours to meet with faculty. So I would love to dispel that myth, Bev.
That is a great answer. All right, Cuca, let's head back to the UCs here again for a minute. Boy, this is a myth we hear a lot. You'll have a much better chance to be admitted to the UC if your parents went there.
Alas, your parents may be amazing individuals and they might have had a wonderful time, but no, the University of California does not use legacy in our admissions process. So brothers, cousins, parents, uncles, none of that works in our review process. Even if you wanted to share it with me, there's no place in the application where you can tell me my best friend went to UC or X, Y, or Z. So thanks, but I just care about you, applicant, not your parents' education at my UC.
All right, that was some great myth busting right there. Back to Heather and April for this one. I think this is a really pervasive myth. If I meet the basic CSU requirements, I will be admitted to any CSU in the state.
Well, just like we have campuses throughout the state, we also have differing, number of applications that those campuses receive. And so when campuses receive more applications from qualified applicants than they have the capacity to serve, we call that impaction. So we do have some campuses that are highly impacted in all of the majors and all of the programs. San Jose happens to be one of those 7. And then we do have campuses that are not impacted at all, maybe have a few programs that are impacted or majors. For example, nursing is a very popular major at all campuses that offer it. And so it really is important for students to do their research and figure out what campus they're interested in applying all of the CSU campuses provide very clear information about their admission criteria and their impaction status. And then we also have a central CSU website that has videos and information and search about impaction. But also something else to keep in mind is that within the CSU, we do have a commitment to serve our individual campus regents. So students that are considered local to a CSU campus, regardless of if they are impacted or not, actually get admissions priority at those campuses. So it's always important for students to do their research, work with their counselors, and make sure that they understand the CSU campuses that they're applying to and what major or if the campus is impacted.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Grommo. Dr. Latimer, do you have anything to add?
Just a few additional points. In addition to thinking about which campus and whether or not it's impacted, as April points out, individual departments, individual majors sometimes can also be impacted, and they'll have different scores that are set for the GPAs and the test scores, or the combination thereof, to be able to get access. And those vary from both the undergraduate and, the first year freshmen, as well as transfer students. And so one of the things to keep in mind is what you think you want to study can be something that can be variable when you come in, and you may not end up loving. I think that's one of the challenges that we have in both the CSU and the UC systems, is we have all kinds of really fascinating majors that you probably never had exposure to as high school students. Very few students in high school take a sociology class or take an engineering class oftentimes, and certainly not the distinction of a mechanical engineering versus an aerospace engineering in high school. And so being flexible about both the campus that you think you might be interested in and the major that you think you might be interested in, and being able to recognize that you need to work with that college counselor to figure out how best to position yourself, but also open yourself up to the idea that the thing you think you're interested in right now may not be quite the fit that you end up deciding is ultimately your passion. Cuca talked about how it's about finding the best fit for a campus. Sometimes that fit that we think we want when we're 17 is not actually the fit that we need. We all have had stories, I think, of the student, or sometimes ourselves, that didn't get into the college that we really, really wanted to. And yet we went someplace else and found it could be amazing. Or we decided we wanted to go the transfer path and found that that was an opportunity to get smaller class sizes sometimes at community colleges, get really good teaching, and have the opportunity to decide, this is the path that I want to go, this is the major that I want to pursue, and find access through the transfer path that can be really powerful.
That is some great myth busting, Heather Latimer. All right, Bernie, you were shaking your head. I'm going to give one to you here. This, I think, this is a really important myth, and you just touched on that, Heather. Community colleges are for students who couldn't get into a university, right?
Oh, all right, Charlene, thanks for that one. Well, let's just start by saying that community colleges admit the top 100% of all applicants. So we have a wide range of students who come to us, from students who literally were valedictorians at their high school to students who are struggling and need some remediation and basic skills treatment. So we reflect the diversity of our community, essentially. So there are thousands and thousands of students who could have gone to a university, but for many different reasons opted to attend a community college. It may be financial, it may be cultural, it may be family needs. There are just a myriad of reasons, or perhaps they just weren't ready to commit to a university. So they bought some time. They took a couple of years to really investigate their major and their goals, and then move on when they were a little bit more settled. So, we have such a wonderful diversity of students. No one over 18 is turned away. But during my tenure as a community college faculty member, I've seen students who attended community college go on to every CSU, every UC, places like Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Williams, Columbia, USC, you name it. So it is definitely not a second-rate opportunity for students. It's just a different road to take.
Thank you. Really well said, Bernie Day. Cuca, we're going to kick this one back to you here. Top myth. Going to the UC is better than going to a CSU because it's harder to get into and it costs more.
I stick with my guns on this one. It's about the right fit. I've had friends who've gone to the University of California and they've been massively successful. They're very analytical. They're critical thinkers that are looking at that problem solving aspect. And we teach theory and we practice research at UC campuses. So if you're looking at a path towards, hey, I want to do research, I want that to be critical in my coursework, regardless of where I'm at, if it's engineering or history, then we're a good fit. But if you're thinking, I really want to get into the workforce, if you're thinking, I want to do research, I want that to be an option, but I want to also go into education and get my teaching degree as an undergraduate, then the CSUs are going to be a better fit for you. So it comes down to, what is it that I want? What's my checklist? Yes, rankings are there and they're beautiful. And guess what? I'm not using them anymore. Why? Because they're not a best indicator of what's right for you, not what your parents want for you. Sorry, parents, I love you, but it's not about what you want for you. It's what the student needs. And it sometimes is that a student is better at a CSU than they are at a UC and vice versa. So apply broadly, apply to both and see what's the right fit by visiting the individual campuses, talking to those faculty, because maybe the faculty on a CSU is doing the research that you want and that's your good fit, right? Talk to the students at the individual campuses. What kind of students are at that CSU or that UC? That's the conversation. Maybe you belong on a private campus. I know I said it. I know. But there's so many options and opportunities. It shouldn't be about the rankings, because when you start looking at the rankings, you'll actually find that there's some really interesting components to them. Did you know that about 7% of a ranking is based off of alumni giving? So if you have a large alumni that gives, your rankings are going to be higher. So those small little schools that don't have alums giving money are never going to make it to the top. You didn't know that? Research. So make that a part of your review when you're looking at campuses.
Again, some really great myth busting, Cuca. Fantastic advice, parents. I hope you're listening. Heather or April, do you have anything to add to that? Going to the UC is better than going to a CSU.
Well, I think, the CSU has a mission of access, and we provide regional support as well to students who sometimes need to stay home and are place bound. With 23 campuses across the state, we definitely have lots of opportunities for students to attend a four-year university and get a four-year degree. I would also say that the CSU is one of the most diverse four-year university systems in the country, and sometimes fit is about a sense of belonging. So as Cuca said, I think is really important for students to do their research, look at the campuses, look at the majors. We have great faculty doing great research, and so there's lots of opportunities for students to figure out what university is a good fit for them, or sometimes it is starting at the community college and transferring on an ADT pathway. So I think we are a very lucky state in that we have support for higher education. Our tuition and fees at the CSU are only, on average $7,000 a year. We have 59% of our students who get tuition paid for based on grants and scholarships and waivers. So I think there is just great opportunity in the state of California to get a higher education past high school, regardless of what you choose.
Those are really important statistics, really important statistics. Bernie, let's switch back to you in the community college system for a minute. Talk about timing and transfer opportunities. Here is a myth that I'm sure you hear a lot. If I start at community college, it'll take me 7 or 8 years to finish college.
Oh gosh, Charlene, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that one. That is absolutely not true. Now, there may be some students who do that, but for all students, whether they start at a community college or a CSU or UC, it's essential for students to start meeting with a counselor and academic advisor to start determining his or her goals so that they can establish an educational plan that gets them to their goal in a timely manner. So sometimes the community colleges get a bad rap because some students take a long time, but you need to think about the fact that some community college students are working full time and taking only a couple of courses at a time. Some start with the several years of remediation in English skills or basic math. But for the most part, for students who've graduated from high school and were moderately successful, I would say, we have the resources to help a student transfer or graduate in a timely manner in 2 to 3 years, depending on that student's needs. So it's absolutely not true. And to facilitate that, we have excellent articulation agreements with the Cal States and the UC system that ensure the transferability of those courses. And we might talk about that a little later today. I'm not sure if there's some questions, but there are definitely pathways to streamline that for students.
There are definitely questions coming in about that. So let's stick on timing for a minute. Cuca and Heather and April, here's a question, or not a question, it's a myth. It's a myth, we're going to bust it. It is simply not possible to graduate from a UC or a CSU in 4 years. I hear this all the time from parents.
I think it's very possible, and the numbers prove it. So if you're looking at our graduation rates, the universities look at graduations at 4 and 6 year markers. So the student who takes 4 years and a quarter is not in the 4 year marker anymore. They're now in the next marker. So I think there's some inconsistencies in how people understand that particular statistic, but all the UCs are well above the national average. And I know a lot of my local CSUs are, so I'll let the CSU friends share those details. But I think the conversation also comes down to, is the student taking advantage of all their resources to make sure they're staying on track? Because over half of our incoming freshman class this year had college credit. So they came in with either dual enrollment classes, yay Bernie, and the community college path for allowing those dual enrollments, or they had AP or IB exams. So they're coming in with college credits. The question is now, are they taking advantage of those? Because I can tell you, 5% of my classmates who come in as freshmen graduate in 3 years because they have so many credits that they can do that.
Heather or April, anything to add to that?
Sure. So I mean, I think that the same is true in the CSUs, right? And we've seen under Graduation Initiative 2025, which Chancellor White, the previous chancellor, excuse me, had established in the CSUs. Well, I apologize. Under that initiative, we saw graduation rates increase for both 4 year and 6 year. There was a recognition that students are more successful, and it helps to close the opportunity gap if we push for full-time enrollment to allow students to take a full load of classes every semester and be able to graduate in 4 years. There are certainly some majors where it is challenging. Engineering is a very good example in all universities that I'm aware of, that it can be challenging to graduate in 4 years because of the number of expectations that are there, but it is certainly not impossible. I apologize.
No, take a break. We're getting lots of questions coming in, but we're going to stick with our myths here. But here is a question, or here's a myth related to lots of the questions that are coming in. If I don't know my major, I won't be able to be admitted to a UC or a CSU or even a community college now. If I don't know my major. Anybody?
Well, I can start from the CSU perspective that for first-time freshmen, that's absolutely not true. We have every campus has the undeclared major. We would tell students to apply to undeclared if they truly don't know what they want to major in yet. And also, I would just say, lots of students change their majors. You know, you go into a school, you think you know what you want to do. You know, you think you want to be an engineer, and you get into those classes, and then you take a sociology class and realize you really want to be a social worker. I mean, that happens every day on our campuses. So we would just encourage students that if they really aren't sure what to do, use the undeclared major as what you're applying to. And a lot of our campuses have great programming to help students do career assessments, interest profiles, learning communities with other students who are undeclared, and really help students grow and figure out their pathway to a major. So I would really encourage students to use that undeclared pathway, because a lot of our campuses have put special programming around it to make sure that students find their path.
All right, and a comment here from our friend Alice Kleeman in the chat. But if a student is sure about wanting a highly impacted major, that student should not try to use undeclared as a strategy to get in after admission. Agree?
That was going to be my follow-up. I will say this, all of the UC campuses offer a general undeclared, and some of us even have undeclared within a subject. So undeclared engineering. If you really don't know your major and it's something like an engineering or a computer science, look to see if that exists on the college campus. If it doesn't, then recognize if we admit by major, and I'm using engineering because all the UCs have selective engineering, if we admit by major, and I never know that you're a potential engineer, you got admitted as undeclared, there's no way for you to come in this way. So that idea of, oh, but I'm going to sneak in, not into our selective and competitive programs. It's very rare for that to happen. So how do I know which major is impacted or selective, or how do I know which program I shouldn't, really consider? We put it on our website. Did you know it exists? It's actually on a resource called Quick Reference for Counselors. I will put it into the chat for you so that you can click on page 25, which tells you undeclared, selective majors, and everything else. It's public knowledge.
Thank you, Cuca. Great myth busting.
And
All right.
Charlene, may I add a comment to that?
You bet.
Because a lot of students, one of the biggest myths I've heard over the years is that students say, if I don't know my major, I'm going to go to community college. Where I'm just going to do GE and then transfer. And that is probably one of the most dangerous myths, because if you attend community college, we are going to start working with you from day one to help you determine your major, because what you need to do prior to transfer, in addition to GE, is to complete the lower division major preparation requirements. The students who are freshmen and sophomores at the UC and CSU are taking those courses to prepare for upper division work. And similarly, if you're attending a community college, you're going to be doing the same thing. So sooner or later, the students need to start figuring out what they'd like to study. So it's a decision we're all going to have to make sooner or later, but sooner is better.
And I will just add to that. If you're somebody who in high school, you got decent grades, life happened, and you struggled. And you look at it and say, in my senior year, I discovered that engineering would be a great option for me. It may be challenging if you haven't had those grades all the way along to get into engineering programs in the UCs and the CSUs. Our computer science engineering program requires students who have at least a 3.9 GPA coming out of high school. So in that circumstance, going to community college, knowing that that's what you want to study, and there, once you have that focus, you can get the grades, you can complete the requirements and transfer in and have a much better shot of being able to access those programs.
That's really, really interesting to hear, Dr. Latimer, because what I love about this kind of myth busting is we're giving people the honest answers, where sometimes really, you need to take a hard look at your own student, their own wants, their own needs, right? And find that fit, just like Cuca has been saying. Bernie, here's a related question in the community college vein. I know what you're going to say, but let's try it. Myth. If I start at community college, I won't be as marketable when I graduate from a four-year college.
Okay. Oh, that's a tough one. The California community college system is the largest institution of higher education in the country with over 2 million students. So it's hard for me to address marketability for all 2 million students. But, you know, I guess what I would ask you is what does marketability mean? What does success mean? I mean, you know, if all you have to do is do a quick Google search online and you can find lots and lots of marketable and successful people who began their education in a community college. People like Steve Jobs and George Lucas and Tom Hanks and astronaut Michael Finke or Arnold Schwarzenegger or the guy who started Costco, Jim Sinegal. I mean, it's all over the place. There are a lot of successful people. So, you know, when you transfer to a university, typically what most employers are going to ask is, where did you complete your baccalaureate degree or higher? So it's not like you're going to have a scarlet letter that says a community college on your chest. And you're going to find that a lot of employers like the idea of students who started at a community college and went on to a university. There's sort of a grassroots kind of element to your education that employers seem to like. So there's no promises wherever you go that you're going to be marketable. Yeah, in fact, you know, I was just going to say, the Sunday paper, the Sunday San Jose Mercury News front page had an article about the college scorecard, which rates success rate of the graduation rate and income of students at every single institution in the United States. And they actually did a little comparison between Stanford and Foothill College right down the road. And they said, a Stanford student who graduates with a BA in English is probably making $24,000 after 2 years. Whereas the Foothill College student 12 miles or down the road, I think they said, you know, in respiratory therapy is starting out at 113,000. So go figure. And so what you think about as marketability and success is really relative. So I'd say follow your dreams more than follow rankings or salary guides.
Can I toss in really quickly? I am so proud of a lot of the transfer students who end up on our campus, and the amount of coordination and the amount of resilience that they've had at working through a community college system, was they have an end goal, right? My goal is to fill out the application to transfer in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it might be, coordinating with this, that, and the other. They are powerhouses on our campus. I mean, I've got one student who I'm like, when do you sleep? Because you're president of this and you're in that and you're the other. So I'll point out that our degree doesn't say started at the community college, then transferred to UC. It just says University of California. And so many students oftentimes brag about their community college success. They don't see it as a hindrance. So I think we need to change the narrative on this, right? How do you make use of the amazing talents you can get at a community college to then add that to your resume as you transfer to a university?
I love this. This is really showing how you all really do work together and support one another to make sure that students find the right place to get educated. Love this. All right, Cuca, back to you. This is a good myth. See what you think about this. All the campuses will know which other campuses I applied to, and that will affect their decisions. So I need to strategize which campuses are my favorite.
100%. We talk to each other, we email each other, we braid each other's hair as we read applications. Just kidding, ding, 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 false. The University of California application is a singular application that allows you to select any of the 9 campuses, or all 9 of them if you really wanted to. That application is then downloaded, and for the majority of us, we only see the intended major and the application at the campus that you're applying to. So if I'm at UC San Diego readers only see that you applied to their X, Y, or Z program. That's it. We don't go and search to see where else you applied so that we can call and Rochambeau to see who wants you. Think about the number of applications we get across the UCs. And if you don't know the answer, you're talking between 60 to 120,000 freshman applications, depending on which UC campus. There's no reason, there's no rationale behind looking at where else you applied. We are selfish people in the Office of Admissions across the UC campuses. We think we're your first choice because I am, right?
All right, here's some, we're going to get to your questions, everybody, soon, I promise. But we have a couple really important myths to bust before we do that. Very important. My family doesn't have much money. I will not be able to afford to go to college. Anybody?
You can't afford not to go to college, would be my response, because it is about opening opportunities and understandings that will serve you for the rest of your life and will survive and will serve your family and your community. And so thinking about how to engage with whether it is the community college, which for first-time full-time freshmen in the state of California, I believe is free. Bernie, correct me if I'm wrong. And so, that is a fantastic resource that it provides you with the opportunity to try classes, take classes that you think, I may never have explored this. And I think that's one of the things I saw a comment in the chat about college shouldn't just be about getting the salary. And that is 100%, I think all of us would agree, this is not just about jumping through the hoops so that you can get a job to get a particular income level. This is really about who are you going to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to engage with the world around you? What is the impact that you want to have? And I think that's a question, that is much more interesting than what's the job you want to do. We ask little children, what do you want to do when you grow up? The question to me, as we're looking at potential students for colleges and universities, should be, what's the impact that you want to have and how can we help you get there? And that's our work. Part of our work is to figure out how to support you with the financial aid that you need. Sometimes that may be taking out loans. Taking out loans, if you hear lots of myths that are out there, and there are occasional instances of people taking out tens of thousands of dollars of loans, hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans. That is not the norm. The norm in this country is that people have under $15,000 in student loans. And so looking at what that reality is against where you want to do the idea, where you want to go, the idea that this is setting you up for the rest of your life, that's the reality that we need to go to. But there's also all kinds of financial aid that are grants that are available. Cal grants, Pell grants, individual scholarships and programs that are at universities. And part of what our job is to help you access those grants.
Really wonderful advice, and people are saying so in the chat. Thank you so much, Dr. Latimer. My own kids benefited from Pell grants. My son ended up going to law school at Berkeley because of those grants, so it was a wonderful thing. All right. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to add to Dr. Latimer's comment, something that a lot of people don't know about the CSU is that we actually take $701 million of the CSU student tuition and put that towards what we call the state university grant. So those grants are provided to students to help pay their tuition to go to college. So it's very important for students to know and families to know that there's not only the federal grants and the state grants, but there's also the institutional grants. And I would also say that for our undocumented students who cannot apply for federal aid, there's the California DREAM Act application, which allows them to apply for state aid and institutional grants. So please don't think because you're an undocumented student or you're a DACA student that you don't have financial aid options to attend college.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Dr. Grommo. That was one of my own questions. Really wonderful. You all, parents and caregivers who are attending tonight, you're really getting the inside scoop. This is fantastic. Okay, one more really important myth before we move into audience questions, of which there are many. Here's a good myth for everybody. I won't be able to get the classes I want at any of these systems, UC, CSU, community college. Cuca, have at it.
Oh, I was waiting for Bernie. She unmuted herself, but okay.
Oh, Bernie, you can go, whoever.
Go ahead, Cuca.
Yeah, I'll say, here's the reality. I know that there were conversations about Santa Barbara specifically. There's 3 points in which students get access to register for classes. When I've got a new incoming student, be they freshman or transfer, they have the opportunity to go to an orientation program. And that orientation program for our first year students registers them for classes. So students who don't attend orientation are now a few weeks behind everybody else. There's also tutorials that a student at the transfer level has to complete on their own schedule over 2 months. before they can register for classes. You don't do the work, you don't get the classes because you chose not to. I think it's always, oh, the university didn't give me this. I have a student this year who showed up in the residence halls day one and said, when should I register for classes? I was like, oh, sweet Lord, let's help you out. And we worked it through, but did they get the classes they wanted? Not necessarily. Did they get the classes they needed to graduate? Yes. And so therein lies the question. Well, I won't get the class I need is often not the conversation. It's I don't get the class at the time I want it. And if you want to take that amazing film class your freshman year, well, that's usually a sophomore or junior class. If you want to take that amazing one-on-one seminar with a faculty member, that's open as your freshman. Oh, but it's at 8 o'clock on Friday. You want a class, I'm giving you a class. So I will say using your advising, using your resources to register, following instructions, those are all massive first points. And the students who do that will find themselves with courses that will move them through the progression funnel of graduating in a timely manner. It's when the students stop using their resources that they often run into these hurdles of, I don't have any classes. So I will point that out as a conversation piece because it goes both ways, us offering classes and you also taking advantage of them. That is my instead. I'll turn it over to Bernie.
All right.
Well, I would just echo what Cuca said, because I see students who show up on the first day looking for classes and registration started 4 months ago. So students who avail themselves of the matriculation process, which is participating in orientation and, you know, engaging in meetings with advisors ahead of time to develop an ed plan, are going to have an edge. In addition, the community colleges also will offer some, and I think the universities do as well, offer some early registration for students who may have special needs, students who have disabilities or who have other special needs that would require them to get an early start in particular classes. But if you are willing to be a little bit flexible, if you just want to go 9 to 11:50, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you may not get every class you want. But if you're a little bit flexible about it, you're going to find the classes you need to get done in time.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Good clarification. Dr. Grommo, one more quick one for you around that admission application period. Here's a myth, at least we think it's a myth. Students think that if they send their application to the CSU or CUC earlier in the filing period, they have a better chance of getting admitted. Is that true?
It's not true. We would rather have students, it always amazes me when we open up our application and within an hour, we have students that have already submitted their application to a CSU campus. What we would really prefer is that students take their time, review their application thoroughly, and make sure that it's correct. Because once they submit their application, they really can't make changes to it. And I can't tell you, we have done things every year to try and improve the process of our application and warn students, hey, that go double check this information on your application. And I can't tell you how many students contact us and say, I got the warning, but I submitted my application. And so we would really encourage students to thoroughly fill out their application and then work with a counselor or a family member to review it, and then just make sure they get it in by the priority filing deadline for the campus that they're interested in applying to.
Thank you. Wonderful advice, Dr. Grommo.
Can I add another myth that's out there sometimes around applications?
You can.
That if I pay the application fee, I'll have a better chance. There are all kinds of waivers that are available, and the waivers are available for a reason. We don't particularly care in terms of the admissions, whether or not you have paid the application fee. We just want to be able to have you apply. And in the case of the CSU application, April, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that one application fee is for 5 campuses, four campuses. Please apply to all 4. Even if you think, well, these are the 3 that I really want to go to. Find a 4th that could be interesting, because you never know what's going to happen. And being able to think about what are the options that are available to you after you receive your admissions is much more powerful than saying, my friend taught me about this campus over here. I really wish that I put it on my application. So please take advantage of those opportunities. Don't feel like you have to pay the fee in order to be fully considered. We consider everybody who has applied.
Thank you. Great advice. Great advice. All right, time for some questions. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. Tons of wonderful questions. Thank you, audience members. We could be here for hours. Let's see how we do. This one is for either Dr. Grommo or Dr. Latimer. Will the CSUs be test blind for freshmen entering fall 2023?
I actually answered that in the chat. We will be making an announcement shortly this fall on our 23-24 test policy. What I would say is that if students have an opportunity to take an SAT or ACT, just like with 21-22 and our 22-23 admissions, we are using those for students to for placement. So if they are admitted to the CSU, we use something similar to the community colleges called multiple measures. So we look at students' GPAs, their smarter balanced assessment tests that they took in 11th grade, as well as SAT and ACT scores to properly place them in college level English and math. So if students do have an opportunity to take an SAT or ACT, even if we won't use it for admissions, it still can help you be properly placed into college level math and English courses at the CSU.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. Great advice. Okay, here's a question, Cuca, back to the UCs for a minute. Do the UCs have a quota for how many students they accept from a particular high school or region?
No.
No.
Done. No. We look for the best students and the students who, okay, here's the part that's I think difficult. It's a self-reported application. So we only use the information that's reported in the application. And so admissions is holistic. And a GPA is one of 13 factors. The rigor of your coursework, how within the curriculum of your high school, how did you take advantage of that? How did you challenge yourself? So if I went to school X or Y, that's irrelevant because we don't compare the two. So I don't have a quota for school X or a quota for school Y. I don't have a quota for the city or the county. So I look to see what it is that you've accomplished. And if you're able to articulate the context behind your academics, then you're at the top of the funnel. If you are relying solely on one piece of information, your GPA, that's not going to be enough for us in our holistic review. So you might be at the bottom of the funnel. So it's not about anyone else. It's reflected back on you. So think of this as a personal application and a personal review because that's how we're reading it.
That makes sense, Cuca. It reminds me of Becky Sabke, former Princeton admission reviewer, just wrote a book called Valedictorians at the Gate. And she makes the point to say, rather than kids spending all their time preparing for college, they should use their time using what's at high school. Take classes that you're interested in, join clubs, join activities, find out what you really want to do so that you're ready when you write that application. Yeah.
True, but it's not about quantity. So
yeah, no, I didn't mean that. Sorry, good point.
Yeah, so it's all about resources. If you're finding yourself with only one thing that you love, then my question comes down to how are you spending your time? And during the pandemic, almost everything went away and at certain areas, right? And so I'm not looking to see, oh, you have nothing in your junior year. Were you lazy? No. I'm here going, oh, I wonder what happened. So did you instead help babysit your siblings because your parents were working remotely and having a Zoom baby in the background running around in circles was not what they wanted? Are you instead finding yourself learning C++ language on YouTube videos and that's how you taught yourself to prepare while your school didn't offer it? How are you using your time? It's all about resources and it's about your passions too. So own them, even if they don't correlate with your major.
Wonderful advice. Great advice. Thank you, Cuca. All right, Bernie, we're getting down to the wire here, but I promised we would talk a little bit about transfers. Here's a question. If my daughter goes to a community college, is she almost guaranteed a transfer spot as a junior or senior?
Oh, good question. Well, there are some guaranteed transfer admission programs. So with the University of California, there is the Community College Transfer Admission Guarantee Program with 6 of the UC campuses. And we do have, as April mentioned earlier, associate degree for transfer program, which is a partnership with the community colleges and all of the CSUs. But students still need to meet certain criteria, and it varies from campus to campus and by major. But that is very clearly delineated, and nobody is required a 4.0 or 3.9 for any of those guarantees. So they're very reasonable. They range from the mid 2s up to the mid 3s, depending on the major and the campus. So definitely there are opportunities. And in addition to that, there are also guaranteed transfer programs to HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities, and some guaranteed transfer admission programs with private California institutions and out-of-state universities as well.
I think many people are not aware of that. Thank you, Bernie. Okay, April, since you have really the broader view at the Chancellor's office, I love this question. What are some of the hidden gems of the CSUs?
Oh, wow. I visited all 23 campuses, if you can believe that. It took me a while to do it. I think, and I feel bad because I'm going to give my personal opinion, and I hope nobody else is watching this, because I might have some campuses mad at me. Again, I think it really is about fit and interest and where students really want to be. I mean, we have, San Jose State is right in the middle of downtown San Jose, and just a couple hours away, you have Sonoma State, which is kind of more rural, in a smaller community, a smaller campus. So I think that I think all our campuses are hidden gems in a different way. And it just really is about the fit and the interest. And, I have friends that their daughters are children are freshmen in college now, and they did a campus visit just, because they were close by. And they ended up falling in love with that campus. And that was the camp they knew once they got on campus, that was the campus for them. So, if students have the opportunity, I would encourage them to visit the campus. We also have a centralized site for those that can't, with all the virtual tour links to all 23 campuses. So I really feel like there's a campus and a feeling for every student that, is a good fit.
That is great advice. So again, there are so many great questions tonight. We wish we'd had another couple hours with you all, but we've got a few minutes left. So I would like each of you, if you would, to give us like your best advice, your last words, and not to put you on the spot, but Cuca, we're going to start with you. Final words.
Don't do this alone. We offer so many workshops and webinars, and I don't know how many UC application drop-in sessions I'm hosting this month, but it's in the dozens. And I'm happy to answer questions. And I do want to point out that our goal is never to judge a student. So if that came across, I'm really sorry. Our goal is to help understand what a student has available to them. And so you can take my words at face value, and I appreciate that you asked them. So everybody who has questions, thank you so much for that. But don't do it alone. And ask the admissions officer, not your cousin's next door neighbor who got into UC X, Y, or Z last year or the year before, because every year the admissions process does change. So thank you for asking for all those questions.
Really good advice. Thank you, Cuca. Heather, Dr. Latimer, what about you?
I want to just follow up on that to say, in addition to asking for help with this, I made the comment earlier, don't let this drive everything that you do in high school. You need to have fun and explore and do things that you're passionate about. I'm a parent also, and I've had 2 kids now who've gone through college. It goes by like that. And it is really fascinating how much of the first 18 years of life we often spend worrying about getting them into college, and then boom, it goes by. And life then continues on. And we want to make sure that the time that you're spending in elementary, middle, and high school, the time that you're spending with your family is preparing you for life, not just college. And that the time you spend in college is preparing you for life. So find those things you're passionate about, have fun. And regardless of where you go, you can be successful. There are amazing faculty and students at every single campus across this state and across the country. And so it's a matter of finding those people and finding your passion and being able to enjoy the work.
That is great advice. Thank you so much, Heather. April, Dr. Grommo, how about you?
I would say, just like what you're doing right now, you're doing your admissions application, do your financial aid application. Don't feel like you can't afford college, or your family, that you don't have the resources to go there. I think that we've shared tonight that there are definitely lots of financial resources for students and families to make sure that education becomes a reality. We are very lucky in California. You can go 2 years free to a community college. The CSU tuition is $5,742 a year compared to other institutions that's out of state, over $12,000. And Cuca put in the chat the information about, some of the financial aid programs that you see. So don't let finances be the defining thing that sways you away from higher education. I think Dr. Latimer really said it well earlier this evening, that you can't afford not to go to college. And, it really does impact you for a lifetime.
Magnificent advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Grommo. Bernie, you get the last word of the last words.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I guess I would start by saying, ignore the college rankings. There are so many ways that they are faulty. Take time to do your own college rankings, find your own passion, get to know yourself, and become fully engaged in your own education, whether it's in the classroom or out. And know that there is a place for you in higher education, in the public higher education sector in California. There is a place for every student who wants to go and who's open to that. So be hopeful for that.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Cuca, Acosta, Bernie Day, Dr. April Grommo, and Dr. Heather Latimer, thank you so much for generously giving of your time tonight and all this wonderful advice. Thank you, attendees. We wish you all well. Best of luck with the college choice. Remember that fit matters. There's plenty of financial aid available in California, even no matter what your status or immigration is. So please use it. We're lucky to be living here in California with so many wonderful resources. Thank you all tonight for a great session. Good night, everybody. Take care.